This is Action Smash and Demolition
with Steve and the Scum.
Every week, WGD Weekly. We listen to it, you should too.
You better or we're going to kick your stinking teeth in.
Hey, this is Road Warrior Animal, and you're listening to WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum. Listen up.
All right, welcome back. Hey there, all you savages. Welcome to WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum, the special Wrestlecade, the Lost Tapes episode. We've been excited to bring you this for months, actually, and we had a little bit of a snafu. Somebody decided they maybe mistakenly, on purpose, took our digital recorder out of our hotel room there in Winston-Salem, Scum. It was a crazy weekend, and it ended on a bad note, but after that, it was a great story in the end.
Absolutely, Steve. Always a pleasure, as usual, to be back with you, my longtime tag team partner. Always a pleasure to be working with the class act that's always the boys over at Wrestling's Glory Days on Facebook. And, yeah, just like you said, Steve, just happy to be able to present this. You know, better late than never, they say. So, you know, we recovered through no lack of hard work and persistency, a little assist and a tip of the cap to the great people down at the Winston-Salem Marriott. So we're happy to finally bring to you the lost episode, Wrestlecade. We bring you back to November 30th, 2013, in a fantastic weekend that we had up in Winston-Salem, the Benton Convention Center. We got a dynamite interview with our longtime friend, former ECW champion, Justin Credible, kind of steers away from the norm here on the program, but very insightful, a lot of psychology, a lot of, you know, looking at the true wrestling fan that he is first and foremost outside of being a performer. And then we take it where Steve and the Scum get to take a look backstage, kind of in character, Steve.
Yeah, real cool stuff there. Justin Credible's interview is really cool. It's a very interesting perspective on the wrestling business from a professional wrestler. So we hope that you stay tuned for that. At the end of our show, we're going to play them back to back. We have tons of interviews that we took over the course of the weekend for the card. And it was a really cool time for Steve and the Scum because we were able to get words from our performers directly before they were able to go down to the ring and perform. So it was really cool to hear that, Scum. And that's going to be played at the end of our show in consecutive fashion. We got guys like Robert Gibson, Buff Bagwell, Justin Credible, of course, Matt Hardy, the Wrestlecade champion of the night. So really cool stuff there. We're going to move on real quick, but we have, before we get to our interview with Justin Credible, I want to do a quick rundown of what you can expect from our show today. So thanks for tuning in to WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum. After our Justin Credible interview, we're going to do a real quick Raw recap, which we don't normally do. As you know, you're a longtime listener to the show. We pride ourselves in not talking about the current product. But because it was old school Raw, we just want to touch on a couple of things. Of course, that great surprise at the end. And also, we wanted to announce a contest for this week. We were going to give it away this week, but we didn't. We posted it too late in the week, so we have to maybe think about giving away that great autographed Wrestlecade poster next week, Scum. We're going to give everybody a week. Email us at Steve and the Scum. Give our listeners a little bit of detail on the contest. We're going to get into it, of course, a little bit later in the show as well.
Absolutely. Also, what you're going to see here is a unique look, some of the legendary performers that were a part of the Fan Fest at WrestleCade. You're going to see a few video clips throughout where they were nice enough to say a few kind words about WGD Weekly. Couple of legends of the business that we had the pleasure of meeting. Couple of legends of the business that will actually be joining WGD Weekly in the near future part of season 2, Steve. So in case you were wondering as you go through the show, that's part of the Fan Fest that we had. Some of the guys that absolute fantastic to meet, and you know, we were very thrilled to have that time with them, and they were really gracious that they did that. So again, we're just all in all really happy to bring you back to Wrestlecade. Heck, we're looking forward to Wrestlecade 2014. They already got it on the calendar that weekend after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and just announced, actually. It looks as though one of the first guests that signed on, I saw that today, Scum, looks like Jeff Jarrett's going to be there next year. So we got former Intercontinental Champion, of course, a mainstay during the Attitude Era, before and after, and the founder of TNA Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett's going to be there. First guy announced, so I can only say it's going to get better from there. Very much looking forward to next year after Thanksgiving for Wrestlecade. We'll do it again. It'll be a great time. Scum, we're almost at the point where we're going to play the interview of Justin Credible for our listeners. I wanted to touch base with you on something real quick. that contest, that poster that we're going to give away is great. So stay tuned, folks, and you're going to hear how you're going to be able to win a poster from Wrestlecade autographed by at least a dozen, if not more, legendary performers and some up-and-coming talents as well, including the son of the bad guy, Scum's Cody Hall.
Absolutely. Cody Hall, Buff Bagwell, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Justin Credible, Rick Steiner, referee Tommy Young, Jillian Hall, Maria, Ryan Shamrock, Carlito. The list goes on and on. It's just a great piece of memorabilia. We'll be happy to give it to you. We can only give it to you if you contact us, however, with your ideas, folks. So that's StevenTheScum@gmail.com. You can contact us with a private message at our Facebook page at WGD Weekly. Hit us up on Twitter with your idea there. All the details will follow this fantastic interview with Justin Credible. But, you know, we got it waiting for you. Let's hear from you, people.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself, Scum. And on that note, I think that we owe our listeners, like we always do, a good interview from a wrestler from the past, from the glory days of professional wrestling, from the Attitude Era, the Extreme Era, all these different eras. The App Era now is the newest one I've heard recently, which I got a chuckle out of. But we're going to get to that right now. Scum, anything you got to add before we go to Justin Credible?
Nope, other than this interview, much like the man himself often likes to say, not just the best, not just the coolest. Coming at you right now, it's just incredible.
Awesome stuff, Scum. I wanted to add something real quick. You mentioned the interviews and some of the videos that you're going to see on our YouTube channel, on our podcast this week. Keep in mind, folks, if you're listening on iTunes, we have a memory limit, 100 megabytes. That's all we can get up online in one show. So I'm going to do it a little bit of abbreviated show for you guys on iTunes. So you may or may not catch all of the videos and commercials, in quotation commercials, from our performers from Wrestlecade. So tune in on YouTube. But I tell you what, Scum, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what Steve's going to do for all of our listeners. This week, sometime, I will get together and condense everything that we got from Wrestlecade. Raw takes. Straight up. No editing, no overdubbing, and no you and I talking in between. But if you guys want to hear everything that we recorded from Wrestlecade, every second of the action, including some crazy play-by-play, a few samples of play-by-play from Steven the Scum, I'm going to have that up as a separate audio download on iTunes only. So iTunes listeners, you get a little bonus because I had to cut this show a little bit and take the commercials out. So I'm going to give you full-length feature Wrestlecade, the Lost Tapes, uncut footage. So if you want to listen to that, it's just some quirky stuff Steven the Scum we're doing with a live microphone. So we hope you enjoy that. But without further ado, we're going to get to Justin Credible right after this.
Yeah, this is the modern-day Viking Gunner from Impact Wrestling, and you're listening to WGD Weekly with Steven the Scum.
All right, folks, welcome back to WGD Weekly Special Wrestlecade Edition. And this is the time where myself and the Scum are very excited because we have our host for the week, the guy that came down, was gracious enough to make a very long drive down, tons of changes of plans at the very last minute, and the man committed, and he made it, and it's been a fantastic weekend so far. So we got Justin Credible with us. I'm very excited, Scum. I know that it's been a long weekend, and, the cream rises to the top.
Absolutely, Steve. One of the things that we're going to for sure touch on here, we were speaking earlier during the Fan Fest with Justin about, a lot of times you hear the perception that people get, you hear the negative, especially across the internet and the sites about the people, maybe they don't necessarily hold up their end of the bargain sometimes. And you don't often hear about the people that go above and beyond and make that trip, and that's something Justin did here for us and for the fans at Wrestlecade today, making the long haul down from Connecticut. So we're just happy to have him down here, and it was a great event. Everything went well, and we really appreciate him taking the time here to speak with us again.
You're absolutely right, Scum. Let's get right down to it because it's been a long day. We started this 12, 13, 14 hours ago. It's been an extremely long day for you, me, and, of course, Justin and his family. So let's get right down to it. Justin, give us a little bit of background as to, what happened. I know we had a flight booked for you through Tracy Myers from Wrestlecade. So tell us a little bit about the last 48 hours of your life trying to get everything put together to just simply attend this event.
Well, pretty much. I mean, like you guys said, there was a flight booked, and through a little bit of a fault of my own, and through fault of the government being shut down, recently, as we can all remember, my passport hadn't come in on time, and with the Thanksgiving weekend and stuff, I just couldn't pull off getting a state ID, all that stuff straightened out, so I had no ID to get on a plane. And just it would have been a PR nightmare for me. With the past, unfortunately, that I've had with with being a drug addict and missing some bookings. Not a whole hell of a lot, but it sure seems like a lot, because when you miss them, they remind you like you killed somebody. But anyways, so I certainly, being sober for 1 year, November 19th, still new at this, and I'm still making a lot of amends. So it's a big show, huge show. And I just didn't want to disappoint anybody, didn't want to disappoint you guys, didn't want to disappoint the promotion. And quite frankly, a PR nightmare for me, because like you said, man, people always hear about the negative when, guys miss a booking or, they do something they're not supposed to do. But we rarely go on and say, oh, by the way, you also didn't pay me right. Or, you gypped me $100 in trans or, stuff like that, So anyways, it was a decision of mine. So my wife and I left Friday afternoon, and it was a 700-mile ride each way. It took us do the math, 700 miles each way, 1,400 round trip. So it was a hell of a haul. But, I wanted to be here as a special event. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you guys brought me in, and just, that's what you got to do, man. And just everything worked out. It was a great show, fantastic audience. I mean, the matches were sick. Matt Hardy, Carlito Colon, great ladder match. I got to be special referee in a great classic I Quit match, ECW style, between the Innovator of Violence, Tommy Dreamer, and C.W. Anderson. Steve Carino involved. Just a great night, and it was just one of those things, and I'm really glad that I did it. And I don't know, man. It's just it seems like a lot of good things have been happening for me lately. It's just like been the third or fourth big show I've done within a very short period of time. I did Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore, big PWS show up in New Jersey where I wrestled Big Van Vader. Now this one, Wrestlecade. So things are really starting to pick up, and that's what you got to do to hustle in this business and make a name for yourself, or in my case, reestablish a name for myself. And that's what we're doing here, guys.
That's some fantastic stuff. Now, when you say reestablish yourself and rebranding yourself, so to speak, that takes a lot of hard work. And, every day we all get up and have some sort of a job that we have to do, and being a pro wrestler is no different in the sense that you do have you're in a line of work, and there's things expected of you and expected of your employer. So if you could elaborate a little bit on what some of the similarities and some of the differences are of being working in the professional wrestling industry as a performer, and compare that to just, say, a guy that has to get up and go to the office from 9 to 5. There's certainly some similarities and a lot of differences.
There are a lot of similarities. I mean, look, we have to be responsible. We have to be accountable. We have to come to work and put on the best possible performance, or do the best possible job, which is considered that we can do. We travel to work. Some commute, some travel. Businessmen and women travel. Far length. Go through great lengths to get to where they got to go. What they don't get to do is, put on makeup and tights and wear funny clothes and spandex and get to pretend being a superstar for the evening, which is, really cool. I mean, I know you guys are musicians, and I'm a guitar player and singer who never made it as well, because, I probably didn't have the chops for it. But I always wanted to entertain, and this is what I chose to do. And to me, it's the most gratifying thing in the world. So similarities and differences, and plus, for me, I mean, it's great because you're doing something you're extremely passionate about. I've been blessed for 21 years to do something I am so passionate about. I live, eat, and breathe this stuff. Some nights aren't so great. Some nights, like I said, you get hurt. Things don't work out the way you want, just like in life. Sometimes the money ain't right. Sometimes it's not worth your while, after you've traveled hours upon hours and fought hard as you can. But when it's right in the ring and outside the ring, it's, one of the best experiences in the world. And, it's really neat. It's neat to get to do this for a living, and I just wish that more people could experience sometimes what we go through, not only in the ring but outside the ring. I think they'd get a greater appreciation for what it takes to be a quote-unquote pro wrestler.
Well, interesting that you would bring up when you had touched on that not everybody gets to put on the tights and the spandex and the makeup when they go to work every day. We had a conversation earlier that I'd like to expand on a little bit, where we talked about, maybe some of that character and some of that, whether it's with the legends or the younger guys in today's world of professional wrestling, has changed. And maybe you had personally mentioned to me, Justin, that possibly that character is missing some of that psychology. Could you expand on that a little bit and tell our listeners what you were getting at with that?
Well, I mean, it's a couple of things. I mean, I think one of the things I was getting at is with the times changing, and have changed, quite frankly. We, as like the way when I grew up watching wrestling, it's very, I grew up in the mid '80s, late '80s, early '90s, the Hulk Hogan era. You bought wrestling magazines. You watched the TV shows. You had to go to live events to see some of the champions even wrestle. So it was a whole different experience, and you very rarely got to meet up close and personal professional wrestler. And if you did, it was like, it was like meeting a Hollywood star. I mean, it was the biggest deal, or at least for real wrestling fans, it was. And I still believe it rings true to some degree today. But today in our business. It's changed. The business has changed. There aren't, we're not a territory-based business where there's tons of different places for guys to work. It's a WWE only pretty much business. I mean, TNA is barely relevant. I've said it before. I'm a horrible critic of TNA, but I stand by it because they are totally the shits. I've worked for them. They and they've had a hell of an opportunity. And quite frankly, as long as they're around, they still do have an opportunity that they squander at every corner. So basically it gives us WWE and the independent scene. So, guys trying to make, whether it's promoters or wrestlers themselves, just as a whole with internet, smart marks, dirt sheets. I mean, I'm all for the, certain things. I mean, you got to progress. YouTube shows. We're just available 24/7 on-demand content. You don't really have to, it's just the whole game has changed. But I think the status of, it's like we're sitting here like today, I'm sitting here at a table signing autographs for 3-4 hours. Fans just walk by, say, hey, that's just incredible, like it's no big deal. Whereas years ago, if I saw SD Special Delivery Jones or, somebody, I'm not, nothing against SD, but he was a lesser name. That was a big deal for me. Much less see a guy like Ted DiBiase or Greg Valentine or Roddy Piper. So I think that has really changed the way we perceive these guys. I think the curtain, it's like, the Wizard of Oz, where you could see behind the curtain, but it's almost too much. The star status, the thing that makes us superstars and special is really, it exposes us as humans. And I mean, we are, of course, but, the fans, there's some empathy, but at the same time, they feel like they're you instead of looking up to you. Like, they're just like, they feel like they can go have a beer with you, which is cool, but it just, why should I buy a ticket to see you? Why should I buy your merch? It makes it harder to put you up on that pedestal, because at the end of the day, we're supposed to be warriors. In a simulated arena, that could be, spectacular, deadly, that whole thing. And it makes it harder, I think, for me anyways. And very few guys have the cachet to bring that. I mean, to me, only a couple guys stand out that that do it. Sabu always does, because he just looks like a killer. Terry Funk, for some reason, transcends that. But some guys, man, we just don't. And it's just, it's just the way the business is. But I think it's hurt it a little bit. And it's just changed the way fans growing up today digest their wrestling. So, it's you got to just move with the times, but just sometimes it's I don't know. I think it does us more harm than good.
Well, we're talking mostly about the psychology of the business here and some of the different things, a little off the mark from what we usually discuss here on Wrestling Glory Days Weekly with Just Incredible. But an analogy that you made there made me think of another thing we spoke about, an incident that I've never heard anyone actually speak about at length. So if you wouldn't mind getting into it, the analogy I was speaking of is you talked about pulling back the curtain. Earlier, if there was ever a time that anything with the curtain was pulled back, and you were there first and foremost, when they did the piece that wound up on the ESPN
show that they did on Scott Hall. We talked about promoters and different perception. I've never heard anyone personally discuss that incident that was there first and foremost. Could you walk us through that incident when they literally pulled back the curtain and showed what was going on there with Scott?
I mean, it just, it happened kind of so quick. It was basically, look, I mean, we being the clique and a lot of guys in the 90s, we just kind of ran in the business like we were rock stars, kind of, doing the Sunset Strip thing, like 80s glam bands on the Sunset Strip. That's how we lived, groupies, sex, drugs, rock and roll. And for us, it was just another day at the office, and you never think you're as bad as you are. And to be honest, Scott wasn't the only one screwed up. I was just a lot better off than he was. And, the promoter was, a lot of it goes on him because he should have never put Scott out there. But Scott, he didn't care, and he wasn't in the right frame of mind to police himself or anything else. I mean, he was, obviously you guys seen it. We've all seen the footage, but it was just, it's one of those things where promoters, it just shows the side of the business where it doesn't matter who you are or what condition you are in. You're a dog, and we're going to just, even if we have to push you out there dead, so they don't have to get their money back, kind of a thing. We don't care, and it was a blatant disregard for a performer's health. I mean, obviously, Scott is admittedly so, has had demons, throughout his career, and myself included have had demons in my career. We're both recovering drug addicts, alcoholics. So, it just shows that we're just pieces of trash to go out there at any cost to entertain, and but there's casualties to it. And, it was just one of those sad examples of how the dirty and ugly side of the business can be,
You make a good point, Justin, and with a lot of the mainstream media outlets, it seems that even on the major networks, there's always an advocate that wants to be the guy that buries professional wrestling or sports entertainment in some capacity or another. So you have that to deal with, to fight against an uphill battle there. And then when you get to the actual fans of the sport, the fans of professional wrestling, like myself and the Scum, some of these fans decided that they want to not only exploit the business for their own gain or have deep criticism for things that they could maybe never do physically in their life. So give us a little bit of insight as to what the thoughts are from just Joe Pro Wrestler on the internet wrestling community and on the mainstream media that always is looking to bash and bury the sport of professional wrestling.
I mean, I don't... people always mock, and this is from a movie, but people mock what they don't understand, and they do. Which is fine by me. I get it. We are what we are. We're a sideshow. We're a circus carnival. But I think, at the end of the day, we're athletes. We're fathers. We're husbands. We're brothers, sisters, mothers. Ladies, men and women. People who truly love this business and have done it. And the thing that, we pay, and a lot of fans don't get it, we pay the ultimate sacrifice to just be in this business. Before you see any of these guys, or most guys in the big leagues, there's thousands and tens of thousands of miles traveled for no money, getting your ass kicked, starving. I mean, I starved when I went to train in Calgary with the Hearts. I literally starved. I went up there 220 pounds, huge. 8 weeks later, came back, lost 30 pounds because all I could afford was to steal $1.50, Canadian $1.50 to get a gallon of chocolate milk. That's all I would eat for the day. Making that, that's, paying dues and stuff. And we do it just for the opportunity to someday get a spot or a chance, and in essence, to entertain and put on good matches. And for a little, for just a shot, not even guaranteed, just for a shot at that fortune and glory, as Indiana Jones said. So, yeah, man, it's just, it's like a taste of that, it's like heroin, man. Once you get a taste of that thing, of that stardom, of that feeling of the crowd and commanding them, it's, you want more and you want to get better and bigger, and just it could be great, man. So I mean, that's kind of that perspective of it.
Well, that's great stuff. We got Just Incredible here with special edition WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum, Wrestlecade edition, live in Winston-Salem. Moving along, touching on a few more things here with Justin. Very interesting stuff. You brought up how, just in speaking with you throughout the day, you can tell, first and foremost, that you're a big wrestling fan, first and foremost. You said, just like we did, that you came up with the magazines and, watching it. And like you said, it was a big deal when you were young. If you happened to run into one of the performers outside of the building, it wasn't where you walked through and there were 20 of them lined up and just, hey, how you doing? So I guess looking back to as a fan, getting into what would eventually become your job and your career, who were some of the guys that you looked up to, Justin? And did you ever come across them? Is there anyone that you've ever come across or still find yourself kind of in awe when you come across being that fan growing up?
Absolutely, man. I mean, I've had a very unique ride in this business. Shawn Michaels, absolute, modeled my career after him. Not only is he, I was able to model his work from watching it. I mean, he's a friend, and he got to teach me things. Ric Flair, another one of the greatest of all time. I got to work with Rick. I actually had a match with Shawn. I never had a match with Rick. But you pick their brains, and you just ask all kinds of silly questions that and that's the beauty of this business. Is so many of our legends that we look up to are around and able, are willing to help. One thing that frustrates me about indie wrestlers a lot is that I wrestle every weekend, and very rarely, if any, I get asked by an indie wrestler, "Oh, could you watch my match and let me know what you think? Give me some criticism, good or bad, whatever." And that's all we used to do, man. I'd always ask the older guys, that's what you did to get criticized. The kids don't want to know if they're doing something wrong, or they don't want to hear it from the veterans now because they think their way is the right way and they can't learn anything. I mean, Scott Hall never gave me a compliment till, I was just talking to his son Cody about this. Scott was one of the harshest critics. I don't think I ever got a compliment from him up until like 5 years ago. I brought him into ECW and worked with him when I was World Heavyweight Champion, like main event, sold out arena, and he still didn't put me over. And I know I had and I know I carried him in that match, but he still wouldn't put me over. So, finally it took me 15 years to just get his approval and say, "Kid, you're good," So I think there's just so many guys that are willing to help. I just think we as an institution of veteran wrestlers down to rookie and green wrestlers or whatever, I think the younger generation, man, they got to step their game up huge. Not to pick on them, because I was a rookie, doesn't feel like that long ago, and all that stuff that I did made me stronger and made me respect the business and made me a better performer and made me admired. I could go into any locker room in the world, hold my head up high, walk into WWE right now, any event, walk right through, shake Vince's hand, have no, you know what I mean, and hold my head up high in any locker room, because everybody knows in this business Just Incredible did it right. He respects the business, he respects the boys, he respects the younger generation and the older generation. So that's a great thing, and I think the young men and women, that's why I do the Pro Wrestling 101s, the young men and women need to really step their game up, because I'm handing this shit over to them someday. And a lot sooner than later. 40 years old, I don't want to be doing this forever. And, I just think it's their job to preserve it and keep bringing it up and higher and, stuff like that. So, yeah, man, sorry, went on a tangent, sorry.
Anytime. We really appreciate your time, Justin, so thanks a lot. But let's take a second, and let's take Justin Credible and peel that layer away. And let's talk about Peter Polacco, who has worked in the Northeast for the most part over the last several months, couple of years or so. And it's a rarity to go south of the Mason-Dixon line, so to speak, south of Pennsylvania. This was a pretty sizable event, and talk to me a little bit about, and like we've been mentioning here, right, we have 3 wrestling fans, first and foremost, sitting here in this conversation right now. So be a wrestling fan for a moment. And now I saw this with my own eyes, but I want to hear it from your mouth. Yep. Take us through a little bit of what you were experiencing when we had our Fan Fest today and some of the names and faces that maybe you hadn't seen in a while, and talk to us a little bit about that.
I feel like a little kid again, I'm like, wow, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Guys that'll, Tommy Young, the great referee, one of the greatest of all time, the Rock and Roll Express, Jimmy Valiant, the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez. There's so many of them. Bobby Fulton from the Fantastics, Tully Blanchard. There's just so many to name, and it's like, these are the guys I looked up to. I bought the magazines because they were on them. I sat there religiously and imitated these people when I was a kid to be like them. So to me, it's a trip, and but the real guys don't lose that enthusiasm. Tommy Dreamer is the same way as I am. We're fans, and we'll admit it to anybody that we're fans. But that's what's pure about this business, at least for us. It's amazing. I have as much fun being at some of these events as the fans do. Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore. I was in the ring with my 2 ex-partners, Lance Storm, Impact Players, X-Pac with X Factor, and when Terry Funk made his way down the aisle with the music and the crowd around us, I wept. I didn't tear up. I wept. Like, I couldn't stop crying. I was almost embarrassed. Tommy was crying. Like, we all had tears in our eyes, like, a bunch of little girls, because that's how much we love this, and that's how much we respect it. And, I wouldn't make the sacrifices I make if it wasn't that deep love. And I just, this business needs to, if it wants to go forward, if it's going to go forward and enjoy the success it has, it's going to need to have young men and women with that same kind of passion. And I know they're out there. Just they gotta, it's not uncool to be passionate. It's pretty cool. And I just think today everybody's too hip and too whatever, and they don't put nobody, so many green kids that I've never seen before, didn't even come up to me and say hi. These are people I wouldn't even piss on in the locker room. And like, you're not saying hi to me. I went over and shook everybody's hand, to every top guy, to every jabron. And it doesn't matter, and I'll give them all the equal time of day. But it just goes to show the etiquette sometimes. But it is what it is, guys. Can't right all the wrongs.
Well, very true. And that coming from, like you just referred to yourself as first and foremost a passionate fan. You named some of the great legends that were here at Wrestlecade. And as we've been talking about, it seems like there is, Steve would agree with me, and I know we've had this conversation before, it seems like that with today's wrestling, there is just that something missing. Now, maybe it's that there's only the one company, the one major company. Maybe there's more to it than that. But personally, coming from anyone who's watched your show, the Pro Wrestling 101s, someone who is, I would call an expert on the psychology with the time that you've spent in the business and the names that you've worked with over the years, do you see there being a possible way, or is there any way? What do you think it would take to bring back, whether it be another company or something, to bring back that wrestling that we all grew up and loved?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, I wish I had a great answer. I wish I had a long answer that made sense and stuff like that. I don't. That's the problem. I don't think we're in uncharted territory, and I think we are all in for some rocky road ahead with this business. Vince got his dream. He took him a little longer than the late 80s to buy out every wrestling territory, but he finally got it. He did it. And, he thought after WCW, the business would all be his. TNA stuck around. Now it's just, it's all his pretty much for the taking. Pro wrestling is... See, okay, real quick, what I mean by that is what made ECW popular and what made us successful was we were the rebellious, we were the anti-WWE. If you didn't like WWE, you didn't like WCW, we were those guys that you would root for, the underdogs, the rebels that said, F you, we're not going to take this bullshit. And you can get behind that. Today, we're the cool kids on the block. Today, you ask fans what they want WWE. That's all they know. Vince got his wish, and I think as a business, we really need to reevaluate it, and we really need to proceed carefully because it's going to be Vince and indie wrestling. And indie wrestling is good, could be very good, could also be atrocious. Guys that aren't trained, guys that have no clue, guys that shouldn't be in the ring. So we've really got to start. Lots going to have to be done, man, and unfortunately, there's no body of commissioners and workers and regulators. It's the Wild West out there, and that really hurts it too, where anybody with a couple $1,000s could buy a ring, have a school, and put on shows, and hit me up on the internet a month from now and say, hey, Justin, I got this show, make some nice poster up online, offer me money, what do I know, right? Looks legit to me, like every other promoter out there that emails me with offers, but I'm getting a lot of that. It's a step up from a backyard promotion, except they have a ring. So that's what we run into. And I think fans, it confuses the marketplace. And then fans, if they go to one of those shit shows, won't go back. No, just wait for WWE. And then it's what Vince wanted after all. So, anyways, gentlemen, I am exhausted. You've been wonderful to me. Chris, Steve, God bless. I have to go to bed, and I have to eat something before the kitchen closes. But thank you, and I will be back hopefully more often with you guys, and we have some plans to do some stuff in the future, I know. So, hopefully I'll be seeing you guys very soon here on the show.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. You must be tired with that long ride. We appreciate you making it down here. The fans appreciate you making it down. And always a pleasure to have Justin Credible here on WGD Weekly. Steve, anything to add?
Just an amazing weekend. I really appreciate it. Justin Credible, his girl, they've both been really nice, very gracious, and we really appreciate their company for the weekend. It's been a fantastic weekend. Few hitches along the way in transportation.
We got there.
We got there. We got through, and we saw a lot of dedication from a performer to come through for his fans. And for what it's worth, one of the biggest pops of the night when Justin Credible's name was mentioned by Tracy Myers at intermission. Got a huge pop on his intro too. So that's fantastic. A job well done, Steve and the Scum, bringing Justin Credible here, and a great job well done by Justin Credible himself.
Absolutely. So that'll about wrap it up. Like Justin said, we'll look forward to doing some work with him in the near future as we get ready to move on to our new network show and for season 2, as we're calling it. And for now, we hope you all enjoyed this special edition live from Wrestlecade in Winston-Salem. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks for listening.
EC-Dub.
I'm here on Wrestling Glory Days with Steve and the Scum. It's amazing to see the people here today. Absolutely amazing. And it's amazing to me to see some of the old-timers and legends like myself. But one of the things that amazes me, everybody comes up to me and says, we wish wrestling was like it used to be. Now, there must be a viewing audience for that. I'm a huge baseball fan, as you can tell, but there is an American League and there is a National League, and they both play different baseball. One got designated hitter, the other one pitcher hits. It is a completely different game if you know anything about it. So maybe someday down the line, there'll be a different league coming along, and we can compare notes, because when wrestling was at the highest, it was the Monday Night Wars when they had competition against one another. So it would be good to see that back. So being on Wrestling Glory Days has made my life complete. I can now go back to the pyramids, eat some betel nut with the Lady of the Third Eye, and relax. Thank you.
All right, Scum, we are back. What'd you think of that interview with Just Incredible? That was a really cool setup as far as it goes, just sitting in the lobby of the Marriott. He's just one heck of a guy, so I really appreciated his time. I know you did too. What'd you think of that interview, man?
Great stuff, Steve. Great to hear, some of the stuff that we were able to speak with, be hanging out with them all day there at the event and at the Fan Fest, some of the stuff that came up. So we decided to take that route with it, considering we already did Justin's timeline in season 1, walked through all the great stops in his career and things like that. So give you a little look inside the mind of somebody who, in case you haven't checked out his Pro Wrestling 101 show over on YouTube, be sure and do it. Someone who has a unbridled passion for the business, like he said, along with his friend and longtime rival in ECW, Tommy Dreamer. First and foremost, a big wrestling fan. I think you can tell that from the things that he had to say, the respect that he has for the business, the respect that he has for the performers that he's worked with, old and young, top of the card to bottom of the card. And I just thought it was a great way to go about doing the interview. Unique to this show, but fantastic results, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah, I thought the contact was great. And, of course, Steven the Scum, we're always going to bring you guests from the great glory days of professional wrestling. But, hey, we're always going to throw you a curveball once in a while, too. We want to make the show exciting. We want to make sure you guys tune in and listen. But we're going to move on to a different topic, Scum. We pride ourselves, and I talked about this at the top of the show, we pride ourselves about, not really getting into the current product and the spoilers and all the craziness you read. That's 95% of the internet now is based on the current product. So, being fans of classic wrestling, we just like to get into that stuff. But a very unique show this week because it was old school Raw. It's something they've been doing over the past couple of years, about once a year. It was great to see the old performers from the glory days of wrestling with that huge surprise at the end of Jake the Snake Roberts coming down. That was unbelievable. Huge mark out moment for a lot of wrestling fans. That was lit the internet on fire for several days. That smile on Jake's face was a mile wide. Really great to see him back in action, Scum.
Oh, absolutely, Steve. And again, a tip to the old school. I know they called it old school Raw, but most of those other guys, if not all of them, were advertised to be there. Ric Flair and Ted DiBiase, Mike Rotundo, Nikolai Volkov, Slaughter, Arn Anderson, Bob Backlund, on and on, Dallas Page. But, Jake was, again, he's a guy when we spoke with, he talked about when we did do the interview in our recently awarded show of the year from season 1, he spoke about when he briefly touched on if he could run a company like TNA, I believe he was specifically speaking of, he'd want to bring it back to the old school type of wrestling where a good guy and a bad guy, and there wouldn't be just someone out there on the mic for 20 minutes. A tip to the old guarded days of pro wrestling. Jake wasn't advertised, and people actually asked him on Twitter and on Facebook, and, he sort of pulled one over on everyone because I'm sure he wasn't told that morning hey, get up here, because the day before he was telling people, Jake, are you going to be on Old School Raw? Nope, haven't heard from him, haven't heard a thing. And then sure enough, that music hits at the end, and, he had that look on his face walking out. First off, the smile of, like, this is what I've worked so hard for. Anyone who has a computer and is a wrestling fan is familiar with the struggles that Jake has had and the great strides that he's made with Dallas Page to rehabilitate himself both in health and in mind. Not only was that smile on his face screaming when he walked out that, wow, this is great to be back, it was also screaming, gotcha.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and he quoted a quote from him on the internet over the last day or two after the Raw is that apparently only he, Triple H, and of course Vince McMahon were aware of this. So yeah, absolutely, Scum, you're right. They kept it under their hat, and never hurts to have a surprise or two every now and then on Raw. And I thought it was really good honor because I understand the different spots on Raw. The opening spot, the 10 o'clock spot, and then of course the closing spot are the big areas that you want to be on as a performer on Raw, and they saved that closing number for Jake Roberts this week, so that was really cool. But it was a busy week for WWE, Scum. Later on in the week, Wednesday, I believe, Vince and Stone Cold and a bunch of past performers and a bunch of current performers were at a press conference, and they announced the WWE Network, which I hope, as a fan of classic wrestling, is going to bring us that content, that digital library that WWE has been sitting on for years of all the great territorial wrestling. And now, there's always the rumors out there. I know that we've had some good conversations with each other, and I've had a little bit of interaction as well as you, Scum, on our page, Wrestling's Glory Days, with our admins, and just kind of speculating and talking about, well, I'm sure that a lot of the stuff hasn't been converted over to 720p HD, which I believe is how they're going to broadband or broadcast the quality of the WWE Network. Now, you can hop on YouTube under WWE and look at a interactive video that Michael Cole narrates about how it's going to work. But Scum, we have an idea and a reason now to give away a great prize and a second place prize as well. And that is, we want to get your input on the WWE Network, and we're going to give you the programmer's chair. For one day, you're going to be the program director for WWE Network. And what we want you to do is send us in at steventhescum@gmail.com or on Twitter at WGD Weekly or on our Facebook page labeled the same, WGD Weekly, and our YouTube channel labeled the same. Send us a private message. We prefer email so we can kind of keep it in one spot, but we're going to give you that full-size autographed poster. All you need to do is email us your thoughts on what would be great original programming for the WWE Network. I think it's a pretty cool contest, Scum.
Absolutely. Brass facts, let's put it this way. Anybody who goes to the sites across the internet, anybody who goes to the wrestling sites on Facebook, 99% of the fans out there, you've seen, maybe not 99, but 75 anyway, can do it better. They can write it. What's wrong with the writing? What's wrong with creative? Here you go. You're the program director here. Here's what we're looking for. We're looking for an all-original show for WWE Network. And what it entails is any performer or performers from the glory days of professional wrestling. By that, we're going to throw a cutoff on the end of the year 1999 and prior. Any name from that point in time that you can cast in an all-original show, let's see you be creative. Everybody wants to complain, the creative team don't do this, they don't do that. Here's your chance. Knock our socks off, people. Let's see it. Let's see what you got. And, the number one top show decided on by Steven the Scum is going to win you a beautiful poster, a beautiful piece of artwork from Wrestlecade with a lot of the performers on there, autographed by 14 different stars. We've dropped some of the names. Greg the Hammer Valentine, a WWE Hall of Famer, Buff Bagwell, Rick Steiner, Justin Credible, Carlito, several of the Divas, Cody Hall, referee Tommy Young. The names go on and on. We got 14 different signatures on there. The best idea, as decided on by Steven the Scum, will get that. And as a consolation prize, some of the others that come in, maybe one, maybe a couple. If there's a few that we can't decide on, maybe there will be a few that are given away. We'll have to see what we get for feedback. We have our guest from Wrestlecade Weekend, Justin Credible, kindly donated some autographed 8x10 promo shots of himself. So you can walk away with a nice autographed piece of memorabilia. If you can be the most creative mind in programming for the new WWE Network, send it over to steventhescum@gmail.com or in a private message to us at WGD Weekly on Facebook, or hit us up on Twitter with your idea. And next week's program, where we'll be welcoming legendary WWE Hall of Fame talent Kevin Von Erich to the show, we will announce our winner, and we'll also announce your idea over the air.
That is awesome, Scum. I can't wait for that. And I'll tell you guys, we were thinking about giving it away this week, but with the amount of entries that we've gotten already, I think it's only fair that we extend it for a week. So, guys, we posted this information on Wrestling's Glory Days Facebook page, and of course on our Facebook page, WGD Weekly. I think I threw a tweet up too in the end of the week. But we're going to give you guys another week to get your entries in. We're going to make it fair. But like the Scum says, we have a ton of prizes to give away, and we know that collecting memorabilia, wrestling fans collecting memorabilia go hand in hand. So we know there's a lot of guys out there that like all the swag. This is an original thing. This is a one-of-a-kind item. You're not going to get a poster signed by this array of talent. You may get a poster that's signed by a lot of the new guys, or a poster that you went to a fan fest and got a lot of the old guys, but the mix of old and new and the rarity of some of these guys. How many people out there have Tommy Young's autograph, Scum, or Cody Hall? Who knows where his star is going to rise? That guy could be the next Steve Austin. You never know. So knock on wood, we hope his career does well, but we do have his autograph as part of that grand prize. Second place, Justin Credible. Really, really cool stuff. Now, like we talked about throughout the course of the show, we had the opportunity to really just do something really cool, to partake in this event as event staff, and we were able to get those pre-match interviews. So we're going to go to them here in just a few moments, and then I think we're just going to fade out. We hope that you enjoyed our show today. Scum, it's kind of a quick wrap-up. It was Wrestlecade. It was a couple months ago, and due to the unforeseen circumstances that we had no control over, we weren't able to air this when we wanted to. So we were very excited to get some of this out to you because it was a really exciting weekend for us. We made a lot of great contacts. And Scum, let me ask you this. I'm going to give you a couple of names. So I'm going to play name association with you, and you tell me what they have in common.
Uh-oh.
We have videos today. It's going to be a fun one. If you're watching our YouTube channel, you've seen videos today from Demolition, from Greg the Hammer Valentine, from Kevin Sullivan. And Scum, if you could, is there anybody else I'm missing first?
I think Greg Valentine.
I said Greg. You know who we're missing out of there? We had Gunner from TNA. Oh, and the Boogie Woogie Man, who's already been a guest on our show.
How can we forget the Boogie Woogie Man?
Yeah, he certainly won't forget us. I know that. But listen, what does Kevin Sullivan, Greg the Hammer Valentine, and Kevin Von Erich, what do they all have in common?
What do they all have in common? Oh, yeah, I got it. One thing that they all have in common is they will be guests on WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum in the upcoming weeks of Season 2. Each of them will be joining us and sitting down for a fantastic, all-new, fresh interview, which is just the tip of the iceberg in Season 2, but those are a few pretty solid names. Kevin Sullivan, one of the most brilliant minds ever in the history of professional wrestling. Kevin Von Erich, one of the most beloved figures of all time, arguably the first family of pro wrestling, the Von Erichs. That'll be coming at you next week. Greg the Hammer Valentine. That personally, Steve, I've said this before to you, not only that classic Tito Santana feud, the great run he had in WWF as Intercontinental Champion, but personally, I can't wait to get into it with the Hammer and ask him whose idea it was to come out rocking that I Broke Wahoo's t-shirt, or Wahoo's leg t-shirt.
Oh, I'll be excited to hear his answer there, and I almost think that you're going to get a chuckle out of it. I think that's actually a pretty funny question, and for you fans of old school wrestling, you want to tune in for that. So let me just get this straight. So this season, Jim Cornette, we've already aired. Fantastic interview. I mean, we've gotten a lot of great feedback on that, so thank you. We also have Kevin Von Erich, legend. And let me just make a quick mention to the ladies that run what's called VE Nation, Von Erich Nation. Ladies named Claudia and Lisa. They're two of the most dedicated and loving wrestling fans you're ever going to meet. So we wanted to say thank you to both of them for helping us facilitate this interview and to just help get the word out for Steve and the Scum, this interview with Kevin Von Erich that's going to go hand in hand with his ESPN 30 for 30 special, which we've discussed in the past. So tune in for that as well. Greg the Hammer Valentine, Tully Blanchard, we announced last week, will be on our show here very soon. Rugged Ronnie Garvin, and like you said, Scum, one of the most brilliant minds ever in professional wrestling, behind the scenes, and one of the most sadistic madmen ever in the ring, Kevin Sullivan. I'm extremely excited for that. Couple of Yankees sitting down with a Red Sox. Be very interesting to hear his perspective on things, and I know he's a huge baseball fan. So we're going to be able to talk probably about a bevy of things on that show. So stay tuned for that. Scum, I think it's about that time, my brother. I think we got everything under control. We talked Wrestlecade. We talked Classic Raw. We got our giveaway coming up. Season 2 is just underway. It's been a great season so far, so early, but I know that the rest of the season is going to be great. You already hear some of the guests we got lined up. Why not give WGD Weekly a listen and hit that subscribe button on YouTube and iTunes? We greatly appreciate it. Scum, anything you got to add before we head out?
No, but looking forward to letting everyone hear us backstage with some of the talent heading to the ring, getting some in-character interviews, let's call them, taking the role maybe of Scheme Gene and getting the microphone up under their nose backstage at the Benton Convention Center is what you're going to hear coming up. A couple more tips, couple more irons in the fire before we lead you into here, Steve. Again, like I said, it's just a start for season 2. A couple of, if I could sprinkle a few hints, let's say, on everybody else. We also have, for the first time, we will have a tag team joining us together at the same time. Arguably the most popular tag team in the history of professional wrestling, if not certainly one of. We'll also have another man that is no stranger to the same alma mater on the football field as several other of our guests. You can do the math on that one, I think. And very special episode near and dear to myself that will be coming up, where we'll be focusing on a certain celebrity that made a splash in the world of professional wrestling in his time in the ring. And also, Steve, another up-and-coming show that we're very excited to be bringing to the people will see us go back to the Extreme. So there, just a few little, I wouldn't call them spoilers, a few hints for what else is left to come here in season 2. A lot of good stuff.
Oh, yeah. We've already pretty much given you guys the first half of our season. The second half's going to be just as good, but those little hints, I will tell you folks, I will expound on those hints just slightly. The people that the Scum just mentioned are buried somewhere in this show. So if you listen to the show entirely, you will get the answers to who the Scum is hinting to. And I'm not going to give you the answers either. You got to work for it. You got to listen to our show start to finish. You will hear them. But Scum, it's that time. We're going to play them back to back. And excuse the redundancy on Steve and the Scum's part. We're kind of repetitive as to how we do our intros because we were a little confused as to how we were going to actually implement this onto a show. So we did that. But the talent themselves, the wrestlers, they came through. Really good interviews. Just some quick ones here that we hope you enjoy as we fade out our show for the week. Next week, maybe one of the biggest shows for WGD Weekly and for Steve and the Scum, because I know the support we have from Von Erich Nation and just the uniquity of having Kevin Von Erich on a show for a full-length interview, being, I'm sure, very candid with us. Scum, I'm looking forward to that, man. So we're going to roll out with this back-to-back interviews that we have, just the quick backstage interviews with the talent from Wrestlecade. And I had a great show, man. I'm glad we were able to sit down. Steve and the Scum, WGD Weekly. We brought you a great interview with Justin Credible and a quick recap of Wrestlecade. So thanks once again for listening, all you savages in Scum Nation. It's been a great week. We're going to see you next week. Scum, throw something out there.
All right, just wanted to say while we're on the subject of Wrestlecade, everybody up in the Winston-Salem and Raleigh-Durham area, I think as far as Charlotte, be sure and check out upcoming Wrestlecade Entertainment. We'll be pairing up with PWX for their first ever television taping. That'll be coming next Sunday. I believe at bell time is 5 o'clock at Ziggy's down in Winston-Salem. They're going to be launching a brand new television program Saturday morning starting in February next month. And it's great stuff, bringing it back like Tracy Myers told us when we spoke with him, and you'll hear that coming up here. Kind of taking it back to the days of when we grew up, Saturday morning wrestling. Great product, the Carolinas. There's a market for it here. I wish them all the best with that endeavor. A lot of big names. AJ Styles will be on that card. Hurricane Helms. You'll have the return or the follow-up on the angle that started at Wrestlecade with Matt Hardy, the new Wrestlecade champion, taking on Caleb Conley, the PWX champ. A lot of talent, a lot of names you'll know. A lot of big names from the independent scene that are just lining up to get in on this thing. And I see big things for Wrestlecade Entertainment, for PWX. I wish them all the best. And just be sure and check their product out. If you can get out to the show, I know tickets are limited at this point. But check them out on Saturday morning. So hopefully it can be a success and something we can enjoy up here in the Carolinas for a long time to come. Yeah, that sounds good, Scum. And I'll give you guys a quick little news update on that. I'm on Wrestlecade's Facebook page right now, and there are some internet darlings on this card. AJ Styles, like you mentioned, Scum. Kevin Steen fight. Hurricane Helms, of course. Cedric Alexander versus AJ Styles, PWX Dream Match Series. Check that out. The location is 170 West 9th Street in Winston-Salem. That is Ziggy's. They have that set up. And you're going to hear Tracy Myers at the end of our show here today talk about the layout and how similar it is to the ECW arena. So check that out on the Triad CW20.
in the Central Charlotte area, the Mid-Atlantic region. PWX Wrestling and Wrestlecade, some really good stuff there. Matt Hardy versus Caleb Conley for the PWX title. I think it was a unification match, actually, Wrestlecade and PWX. So it's great to see some old talent working with some guys that we know from the glory days from the Attitude Era. So, Scum, I think that's about it for the week. We look forward to next week immensely with Kevin Von Erich. It's going to be a great week. Hope everything goes well, my man.
Yep. Hope y'all enjoy the interviews here, and we'll see y'all next week. Don't forget to tune in for Kevin Von Erich, and if you don't tune in, I will personally hunt you down and squeeze your brain with the iron claw.
While barefoot.
Hi, this is Hall of Famer Greg the Hammer Valentine, and you're watching WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum.
All right, folks, it's almost bell time. We're on the eve of Wrestlecade, the event. It's been a great day. The Fan Fest has gone great. Justin Credible's been with us all day, and now it's time for him to take center stage as the referee of the main event.
Justin, you got the Scum here from WGD Weekly. We're live at the Benton Convention Center. You got the return bout from the Classic I Quit match from ECW. Your longtime rival, Tommy Dreamer, and an associate of yours at times, C.W. Anderson. Now, how is the official? Can you get in there and call it right down the middle?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for bringing me down here. You guys have been a first class bunch of guys the whole way through. So I'm real proud to be associated with you guys. Second of all, these two jabronis are going to get in the ring and somewhat try to replicate ECW history. Well, let me tell you something. First of all, I never liked Tommy Dreamer. Say what you will, we do business, we take care of the ECW part of things, but we never saw eye to eye. We never liked each other, and C.W. Anderson is C.W. Anderson. We go way back. He's another guy who I personally never liked, personally never saw eye to eye with. So it's going to be very hard for me to call it down the middle. A lot of bias, a lot of stuff in my mind, but we're going to do the best we can, and I don't know, if I feel saucy, somebody might just get kicked in the face.
Very interesting, very interesting. But you wear those stripes, you come in as the official, you're expected to call it down the middle here for the crowd at Wrestlecade. So are we to believe that we may see Justin Credible standing over top of both of the Extreme Legends?
You're to believe anything I say you're going to believe. I'm calling the shots here. They don't call me a hardcore icon for nothing. I'm in charge of this thing. Hell, I should be in the main event. Quite frankly, I'm offended I'm wearing the damn stripes. What jabroni picked me to wear this damn stripes? It should be me in there. Hell, I should be main eventing every goddamn match. But anyways, I digress. Whatever it may be, just don't be surprised if I decide to pull out one of my tricks.
Well, there you have it, folks. Coming from the former ECW champion, Justin Credible. We're live, WGD Weekly, with Steve and the Scum at Wrestlecade. It's about bell time here. So any last comments heading into the main event here tonight, Justin?
Well, I've said this many times before, and I'm going to say it again. Tonight, Wrestlecade is not just the coolest. Tonight, Wrestlecade is not just the best. Tonight, Wrestlecade will be just incredible.
All right, folks, we got another special guest, a very special guest, another headliner tonight, a headliner all over the world, Matt Hardy. He's going to get in the ring and face off with Carlito for the first ever Wrestlecade Championship.
All right, you got the Scum here from WGD Weekly with Matt Hardy, and he's looking to become the first ever Wrestlecade champion tonight. Anything goes with Carlito. Matt, thoughts on the match with Carlito? How do you see things playing out?
I see things playing out with me leaving as being the first ever and already best Wrestlecade heavyweight champion of all time. I mean, Carlito is the talented guy, don't get me wrong. He comes from a great lineage. His father, Carlos Colon, is one of the greatest of all time. And Carlito's great. He plays around silly on social media and Twitter and whatnot that he's a body guy. But he can go. He's truly, truly good. But he is stepping into the ring with Matt Hardy in a Hardy forte, and that is the ladder match. So I'm at home. It's going to be even more sweet to actually win here in front of a hometown audience. So I have no other plans but becoming the first ever Wrestlecade heavyweight champion right here tonight in Winston-Salem.
Absolutely hard to argue that the Hardys synonymous with the ladder match, and hard to argue that you'll have the North Carolina crowd behind you. How special would it be to bring that gold home here in your home state?
It's always special, and especially an event that has gotten the coverage that this has and the press that this has, especially because not only are there a ton of current stars here on the show, there's a ton of legends that were here, there's a ton of divas, knockouts, there's a ton of future stars that were here earlier today too. So it's a great semblance. And anytime you're a part of one of these special events, and I feel very blessed to be able to main event it and headline it in a ladder match and being the running to be the first ever champion. But my slogan of Matt Hardy will not die. Matt Hardy is stronger than death. I promise you, I will exemplify that tonight in this ladder match. And when I win and I become the first ever champion, I'm winning it for my people that are out there, the 2,200 people or so that are here attending tonight at the Benton Convention Center.
Fantastic. Best of luck to you, and thanks again, Matt Hardy with WGD Weekly.
All right, folks, we're at Wrestlecade. It's loud. It's in charge. Everybody's here getting ready for a great night of wrestling. We got a huge 7-team tag match coming up, and we got one of the competitors with us now, the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez.
Hey, you got WGD Weekly. You got the Scum here with wrestling legend, the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez. Manny, what are your thoughts tonight on Tag Team Turmoil?
It's the same thoughts I had for the last 30 years with Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, Rock and Roll So-Called Express. You know, my partner's up in heaven, but right now, I don't care about that. Because Ricky and Robert, you're going to find out about heavy metal all night tonight.
Of course, he speaks of the late ravishing Rick Rude there tonight. Mr. Number 1, George South, will be at the side of the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez, in Tag Team Turmoil.
All right, another member here with us now, another member of the Tag Team Turmoil Tag Team match tonight. He is Buff. He is the stuff. He's a friend of the show. We got Buff Bagwell with us.
All right, you got WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum here with the great Buff the Stuff Bagwell Tag Team Turmoil tonight, teaming up with the Dogface Gremlin. Buff, how do you think things are going to play out, my man?
Well, I tell you, anytime you put two powerhouses together like this, but now you've got more than just two. You've got, Powers of Pain. You've got Rock Roll Express. You've got Steiner and Bagwell. This is unbelievable. So I don't know how it's going to turn out, except I'm Buff and I am still the stuff.
Well, that's for sure. You think we may see a blockbuster to cap this thing off?
Without a doubt, you're going to see a blockbuster. But on who's the question?
There we go. I guess when he was saying it years ago that it was for life, he's still rocking the Wolfpack. Buff, would you agree that it's still too sweet?
It is always too sweet, and when you're in the NWO, it is for life.
There you have it, folks. Buff the Stuff Bagwell, live at Wrestlecade with Steve and the Scum.
All right, folks, yet another member of Tag Team Turmoil is with us. One half of the most famous tag team maybe ever, the Rock and Roll Express. We got Robert Gibson with us right now at WGD Weekly. I'm going to turn it over to the Scum, and he's got a couple of questions for Robert Gibson.
Hey, you got the Scum here. We're in the Carolinas where rock and roll is king. Robert Gibson, part of Tag Team Turmoil with his longtime partner, Ricky Morton. Robert, what are we thinking tonight? What are we going to see out of the Rock and Roll Express?
Well, I tell you, it's always a pleasure to come back to the Carolinas. The Carolinas been good to rock and roll has been good to Carolinas. So let's rock, Carolina. We're going to go here tonight and take care of a little business. Maybe see another good old double drop kick.
That's what we're hoping for here. You got some old foes with the Powers of Pain. I don't know that you've mixed up with Demolition, but I'm sure both of them at some point in time.
And I heard Manny Fernandez has a couple of words specifically for the Rock and Roll Express.
Absolutely. We just spoke with the Raging Bull, so could you address maybe the Rock and Roll, mixing it up with Manny Fernandez and George South again?
Well, I tell you what, you look back and see matches with us against Manny Fernandez, it was always a fight. Anytime you wrestle Manny Fernandez, you better be in top gear, because let me tell you, that man can go. So tonight, Manny Fernandez, you know what rock and roll can do. You've been there before, so it ain't nothing like old school. Let's rock.
All right, you got it. Let's rock. Rock and Roll is king with WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum and Robert Gibson.
Steve and the Scum, let me tell you something, guys. Y'all keep rocking.
All right, we got one smoking hot diva with us right now. Jillian Hall is with us. She's going to tell us what she's going to do tonight at Wrestlecade.
All right, we got a participant in the Big Divas match here at Wrestlecade, Jillian Hall, as Steve said. Pretty easy on the eyes here. So, Jillian, what do we got in store tonight for the Big Divas match at Wrestlecade?
You know, you never know what's going to happen when Jillian's out there. Maybe a little song, a little fighting. Of course, I'm going to be victorious. It's just, you know, I'll decide when I'm out there what I'm going to do. It's going to be a surprise.
Well, there's a surprise that the Scum certainly can't wait for. And we'd like to thank you for being with WGD Weekly. Wish you the best of luck tonight here at Wrestlecade.
Thanks, but I don't really need your luck.
All right, folks, this is one guy here that I'm extremely excited about. One of my all-time favorite, maybe my favorite referee of all time, Tommy Young, the official tonight at Wrestlecade. Just got a couple of questions for him. I'm going to turn it over to the Scum.
All right, you got WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum. What an honor to have one of the most legendary officials of all time, Tommy Young, with us. Tommy, how do you see the action playing out tonight? I know you'll be calling it right down the middle.
If I can keep up with them, guys, I really appreciate the intro. That was very nice. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be in the I think it's the elimination tournament with these two.
Cheated the headbangers.
I might do it later now, but anyway, I'm looking forward to it. And why my old decrepit ass is out there, I'll never know. I hope I can say that. I apologize if I can't.
Absolutely. I got to be honest with you. I would be really surprised if we don't see that classic Tommy Young slide out there for a couple of 3 counts. Headbanger Thrasher just peeked in and had a few words. Is there some history there that we're missing?
Listen, I'll do my darndest to give you the slide. I mean, that's got to come up, you know, but it almost always does. And like you say, I really don't know how to anticipate everything. I just have to see what happens and then try to work my way around it, make it easier for the wrestlers like any good referee would be.
Absolutely. Well, we got 100% faith in you. One of the all-time greats, arguably the most recognizable official in wrestling history. Wrestling's Glory Days Weekly thanks you, Tommy Young, for joining Steve and the Scum for a few minutes prior to the big match here at Wrestlecade.
Well, what could I possibly add to that? I mean, I appreciate the hell out of it, guys, and I'm looking forward to it. And everybody out there, hope you'll like what I do out there, and I hope you'll enjoy what happens.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Absolutely, Steve. You got the Scum here from WGD Weekly with the founder, let's say the P.T. Barnum of Wrestlecade, Tracy Myers. Tracy, what a great event. Big success, a lot of money raised. Thoughts on tonight's extravaganza?
Man, we got nowhere to go but up. It was we're 1,670 some tickets sold. There's no comps. It's just strong, man. I mean, I think we're going to probably net out 10 to 12 grand for the toy drive. Had a great day and night of wrestling. Put the two things together, it just kills, man. It's good. I'm proud of this town. I'm proud of wrestling right now. It's good.
We were proud to be a part of it with WGD Weekly. Real quick, why don't you fill our listeners in on what you got going on? A lot of big things happening with Wrestlecade Entertainment heading into January.
Yeah, so Wrestlecade Entertainment's partnered up with PWX, and PWX is coming to Winston-Salem. Going to start running here once a month on Sundays. Ziggy's is a premier nightclub arena type deal, state-of-the-art lighting, sound, video screens, so it's perfect for us. Instead of the dance floor, the ring will be where the people usually are. And the VIP section will be where the bands usually play. So a little bit of a different setup. Ziggy's has balconies, kind of reminiscent in old ECW arena, kind of. So killer setup, and we're going to film that, and it's going to be a weekly television show, just like when I was a kid, Saturday mornings on Tried CW20. So it's going to be killer, man. Bringing it back.
Great stuff. Well, we certainly look forward to doing more business with Wrestlecade Entertainment. It was an honor to be here. It was an honor to meet you. And great work you're doing. Look forward to seeing more.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it. Couldn't do it without people like you.
All right, folks, it's been a long weekend, and it's last call. It's Steve and the Scum, and we got WoW Superstar. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. You got Fire here.
We got WoW Superstar Fire here. It's been a wild night. Superhero. I've been corrected. It's been a very long weekend. A lot of Jaeger, a lot of Patron, and a lot of mystery bills at the bar. Either way, we've had a great night. We got Fire with us at the end of the night at Wrestlecade. Scum, you got any questions for Miss Fire?
Do I? You got the Scum here at WGD Weekly, and we are graced with the presence of the beautiful Fire. One thing that I wanted to ask, you were involved tonight in the, how do they say it? Lumberjill match at Wrestlecade.
She was a lumberjill.
She was a lumberjill. So
thoughts on the match tonight, ladies and gentlemen, from the beautiful Fire?
Well, I mean, you guys will see it for yourself. I don't have to say much. It was fun. I got to wrestle with a lot of girls that, you know, I've been looking up to for a long time, as well as it was a hot mess, to say the least. I think all of us just, you know, were heated in the moment and just let it out on each other. And, you know, I even fought with somebody that I get along with, you know. Lana Starr and I got into it, and luckily we made up, and everything's good now, you know. Sometimes just there's a lot of pressure on us, you know. We're trying to save the world and shit. Oh, am I allowed to say that? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Say it, scream it how you like to. But so anyway, like moving on, getting through that, talent that we've discovered that Fire, maybe unique to a lot of performers, comes out and sings her own theme music. Steve and I could appreciate that, and a little reminiscent of Vince Neil, or as we'd like to refer to her as Fire Lee Roth, here with us tonight on the program. So can we get a little sample? Can we get a little sampling here? And at the risk of sounding a bit cliche, come on, baby, light my fire.
Jeez. That was a very poor reference. But I'll give it to you. All right.
Dude, it will all be fine if Fire gives you 2 knife-edge chops right now. I will hold the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, we will get it right now. 2 knife-edge chops.
I would be honored.
No. Unacceptable. There we go. There's 1, folks. Oh, and the double. That was fantastic. That was... Have it. Ooh. Fire on the mountain. Holy crap. Scum, what do you think about that?
I've had better. Anyhow, a pleasure to have with us here to bring Wrestlecade to a close. The beautiful Fire. Keep your eyes out for her. Wow, superstar on the rise. Maybe the next big thing. Steve, anything to add?
Fantastic working punch from Fire.
You're working, as a legend once said, Fire, your working punch is killing me. We're bringing Wrestlecade to an end. Any final comments from you?
Thank you for listening, guys, and you are going to see a lot more of me soon. And I'm not one of those wrestlers that's going to say, you came to see me, I came to see you. I'm going to close that out. Have a great night. Thank you for joining us at Wrestlecade.
Professional wrestling, Jimmy Bad, the Booger Wooger may tell my people, my brothers and sisters, don't you dare, don't you dare miss WGD Weekly with the man Steve and the Scum. Oh yeah!